Man, the drama is just never ending in Jackson County on many levels. But the conversation right now over the last few days has been around the ballparks, around the future of the Royals and the Chiefs suddenly. Manny Abarca, Jackson County Legislator, is joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. We appreciate him being here on the show. So, Manny, listen, I know that you've been kind of leading the conversation on this here over the last several weeks, for that matter. But how have things changed in the last couple of days where now we suddenly have these reports of Kansas being in the mix for especially the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's critically important that we take these things seriously, if nothing else, to know what the potential is for us to lose, right? Because I don't think folks have been creating a connection between Royals wanting to move and the Chiefs' interest in having that space.
Can you confirm or deny? My understanding is that the Chiefs really want to be on the ballot in April, along with the Royals, on a 3/8 cent sales tax extension. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So the Chiefs want that. The deadline to get on the ballot is January what exactly?
It's the 23rd, but if you take into account the likelihood of an executive veto, it's 10 days prior to that. So really, we're talking about the second week of January that we've got to have this figured out.
And we know the holidays are a wash. Okay. So now what about overriding an executive veto? How many votes do you need for that?
So you need 6 votes instead of 5, which is, pretty significant majority that we need to accomplish.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't feel like you can even get something on the ballot right now to just allow the voters, and this is really all this is doing, allow the voters in Jackson County to decide whether or not they want to continue this 3/8 cent sales tax that has been in place for decades now. You don't think you can get that question on a ballot today?
I wish we could. I have confidence that there is a majority of us, I believe, and my colleagues that will put this on the ballot and let voters decide. I'm there for voters to truly make an educated decision. We need to see the lease. We need to see a community benefits agreement. There are components here that will ensure that we're getting the best deal in front of the voters for them to decide on this.
Mm-hmm. So what is holding this process up then?
Well, it has been assumed that the chief negotiator is Frank White. And I say assumed because that assumption is made by his team. And subsequently, I think some of my colleagues have gone along with that for whatever reason, right? The same author who's brought you the failed property tax assessment is now bringing you the next episode of Chiefs and Royals negotiations. So there's some impediments right there.
Mm-hmm. But aren't you the chair of like the stadium? I don't know what the official title is, and I apologize for that. But aren't you the chair of this negotiation in some way?
Yeah. So I was named the chair, I think 2 weeks ago now, and immediately got to work. Right. The goal was to try and orient ourselves in the first meeting, figure out where at least that group of colleagues wanted to take this committee, and it blew up within the first meeting. One of the legislators jumped out and disagreed with the theory and concept that this committee could have any authority or role or impact on this, when reality is a committee is a working group, right? I mean, we're supposed to go fact find and validate numbers, which I think was the cause of that week, is, these crazy numbers that threw out from the executive's office that eventually they agreed were wrong as well. So that was what the committee was set to do. It is now somewhat defunct, unfortunately, because of that chaos.
How much of this is driven by political infighting that doesn't matter at all to the average voter?
I think there's some of that, absolutely. I think some of it is also in a good nature, and I would agree with the county executive in saying that there could be a better deal for Jackson Countyans. And it's pretty clear what those things could be. It's just we need to get the negotiating table and figure that out on paper.
Are you in a better place right now, relationship-wise, as a county with the Royals or the Chiefs?
I think we're both, personally, I mean, that's the only thing I can unfortunately speak to. Personally, I have open dialogue conversations with them as I try and figure out where I'm going to position myself when it comes time to vote on putting it on a ballot measure or accepting a term in a lease. Those things are critically important to maintain open dialogue with them completely for me. Mm-hmm. And I would say as a county, that's a little more challenged.
Okay. Now, what about when it comes to this whole Kansas thing? I mean, some people are speculating, and I think it's reasonable speculation, that basically they're just trying to get you guys to move. And by move, I mean get you guys to just hustle and get this thing, done by the deadline in January and then get it on the ballot for April. Why do you think that this is a legitimate threat and not just an empty threat?
Well, I mean, I think there's some real political pieces that are moving here, right? The reality that Governor Parsons is not going to be our governor for very much longer, I think is a pivotal component of that April timeline, right? And if you anticipate any support from the state, you're going to need a legislative session in session to do that. Well, that provides only an April ballot, right? You can't do the August or the November because you fundamentally missed your window to have Governor Parsons there to support you. So that component is important for the Chiefs and the Royals, and you miss that window, and you don't know what you get in the future.
So it's fair to say, and this is some of what I had reported last week that I think kind of got missed, the governor is open and willing to use state funds for a portion of upgrades at Arrowhead Stadium and or the Royals' new stadium.
That is my understanding, with the auspice that the county drives this discussion and that we are at the negotiating table can guarantee the stadium stay in Jackson County.
Okay. And they both got to stay in Jackson County, you're saying?
Right.
Okay. What about the Royals? I mean, the other part of this, too, is the Royals, and the reports are they're now looking at another site potentially downtown. They've got, of course, the East Village site, they've got the Clay County site, and now apparently they have the old Kansas City Star building. How much of this is the Royals not being transparent about where they want to play going forward? How big of a hurdle has that been for you as a county legislator?
Honestly, for me, I've approached it in this way. My job is to make sure we get the best deal for taxpayers to consider on a ballot. Everything after that is subject to the team's willingness to get their ballot measure approved, right? I mean, if I drive it to a ballot and the Royals lose their own vote, that's on them. And so I think the transparency definitely is a critical component of that. I think them landing on a definite site would help. But also the other end of this is knowing where the Chiefs are, what they're going to want, and that package, and understanding what is in it for the taxpayer, right? I mean, what is in it for Joe Schmo who's out here working 9 to 5 who wants to enjoy a Royals game somewhere in Jackson County? What's in it for them? And so right now, I think for Jackson County, it's a hard sell. Sales tax doesn't come directly to us, so we got to figure that part out too.
What about you guys meet on Mondays, I believe. Any movement on this thing this week, or are we going to be heading into mid-December with about a month to go and no clear end to this negotiation?
The time is definitely running down on the clock, and so far we don't even have a designated hitter ready to step up to the plate and take this on. So we've got to get going. We did add a few more meetings to our month. I think the legislature is planning on taking recess at the 11th. We've added another week of potential meeting opportunities. I hope and pray that we're starting to get on the horse here and get stuff done, because if not, we're going to have a very hard January to deal with and a subsequent very hard 2 years after that.
All right, Manny Abarca, Jackson County Legislator. Good to have him on. Manny, thank you for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
There you go, Manny Abarca on KCMO Talk Radio on 95.7 FM. Sounds like a total mess to me, and I think there's a lot of finger-pointing going on, as far as I can tell, based on that conversation. But Manny did confirm what I told you last week here, that my sources have shared with me, that part of the reason the Chiefs want to be on the ballot as soon as April is because they have an understanding with the governor's office that there can be money in the state budget for upgrades at Arrowhead. And they don't want to let this thing linger because Mike Parson is out of office in January of 2025. And they just don't know who the future governor is going to be and whether or not that's going to be something that they are willing to spend some state monies on. That's part of the process here, and that's why the Chiefs, more so than the Royals, want to get this thing on the ballot for a 3/8 cent sales tax extension in April. 913-408-7957. That's The studio line and the text line on KCMO Talk Radio. Welcome in.